Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through this video and I'm going to pause it, I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to kind of share the way that I was taught by my master, and we'll see if this stuff aligns. Alright, so let's go ahead and do it.
This is Michal Ledwith. He was the advisor to the popes at the Vatican for 17 years. He is a walking encyclopedia. He's one of the most incredible human beings you can ever meet. And what he found out is that the opening phrase of the Bible was completely messed with. We all believe and we read the opening text of the Bible that says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." The original Hebrew text was messed with. And to do that is very difficult because it's all a mathematical formula. So it's very difficult to cheat. It has to have so many letters across and phrases, and they cross-reference it. So you can figure out very quickly if somebody messed with one of these phrases and these paragraphs. And yet they pulled this off. The original Hebrew text begins with the letter B. Beth. Barashit bara Elohim et hashamayim wa et ha'yaris. Ba, it starts with Ba, the second letter of the alphabet. It's not possible because all Hebrew sacred texts must begin with the first letter of the alphabet, which is A or Aleph. Somebody messed that up. That's not possible. At the moment, it doesn't make any grammatical sense, actually. It's grammatically incorrect sentence. For any Hebrew-speaking people, you'll know what I mean. And it refers to Elohim here as the gods, but it doesn't make any sense. So when he added A or Aleph, suddenly it says Abba Rashit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim wa et ha-yaris, which means the Father of the beginnings created the Elohim, the heavens and the earth. The Father of the beginnings created the Elohim, the heavens and the earth. And suddenly the Elohim no longer is God, or the plural of gods, as we perceive it from the incorrect first statement of the Bible. Sound and resonance, common links of creation and religion. In Christianity, it's the Word. In Hinduism, it's Om. The Egyptians believed the universe was sung into creation, and the original people of Australia believed that the world was created with 3 sacred songs. And then we have the phenomenal similarities between the 6 days of creation in Christianity, the 6 aspects of Om, and the 6 aspects of the all-seeing eye of Horus, and you start seeing the connections between all these ancient cultures and the creation stories. And then the creation stories get even more interesting when you read the Hindu creation story. It says, everything was so peaceful and silent that Vishnu slept under.
Okay, so let's go ahead and pause there real quick. So one of the things that they're talking about is they're talking about the very beginning of the Bible. Okay, and I really enjoy talking about the Bible because obviously there are many different ways that you can interpret the Bible, but one of the things that really stands out on this is the separation between the church that is Christianity and more modern and the olden, church, the beginning church. Because I think that there's an important scripture that is left out of this and was left out of the Bible, which is split a piece of wood and I am there, lift a stone and you will find me. The church was never meant to be a building. It was never meant to be a place that we met up with and that we had, preachings about the Bible and things like that. The church was meant to be a community. The church was meant to be a unification of heart vibration. It was not meant to be this thing that was so separated. And so whether or not you're talking about Sir Francis Bacon, who rewrote the Bible to align it more with the Elizabethan era, which is not a bad thing. Because if the average people were starting to read and write this way and you wanted to get these messages into their understanding, then you write it the way that they would understand it. Right? We're doing that all the time with modern things. We're changing words so that the next generation can understand what it's saying. If we kept the same exact words, you're going to have a disconnect there. And so to blame one side or the other really isn't going to help this situation because it needs to happen. You need to change the words. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That can be taken in many different ways. To say it is the Father that created it, or to say that it is God that created it, or we're talking about the Father of God, the higher that you go kind of thing. But either way, it needs to change, and it needs to fall in with the new group that is going to be reading it, because once the next generation is gone, it really isn't going to mean much if we're arguing over beginning words. All right?
Undisturbed by dreams or motion. From the depths, a humming sound began to tremble. It grew and spread, filling the emptiness and throbbing with energy. The night had ended. Vishnu awoke. It's just great when you start seeing these connections. Sound is the source of all creation. Sound and resonance is responsible for everything. It is the breath of the Creator, the prime resonance frequency, and the source code for everything in creation, including our DNA. Sound and resonance is responsible for everything in creation. By now you should know that sound manifests physical form, and this is the most basic example. This is the most basic fundamental demonstration how sound and resonance manifests into physical form. Every frequency has its own specific shape, a prime resonance frequency. Are you only looking at a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional effect? The original people of Australia have a...
Okay, so let's go ahead and stop there real quick. So absolutely, sound is vital for all of creation. In fact, I love the fact that it says in the Bible in the beginning was the Word, and once you speak the Word, you have sound, and then you have creation. One of the things I love teaching about when it comes to 3, 6, and 9 is that when you play certain frequencies, you get very specific types of shapes. Okay, and so when you learn the chakra frequencies, you learn that they make very, very specific types of shapes. And when you learn that these shapes can also be changed into proteins, you start to understand how sound can actually heal you, because the shapeshifter. And then it also makes sense that when you play other different types, what you end up with is different lines and crosses and things like that. And it's only certain ones that really give that clarity, that give that unity that you can actually see, that create the shapes that you in your mind can make sense of. But let's remember, because everything is always about understanding both sides of things. It's very easy to be like, oh, these ones right here are the correct ones and these ones are all wrong. But that's not exactly how things work. Because if we were a different society who only understood curves, let's say that the only thing that we really resonated with was curves, well, then it would be a problem whenever you put in lines into, the shapes. You would actually think the ones that create lines would be the things that aren't aligned with the universe, and the ones that create curves are the ones that are. Instead of the fact that we were taught that shapes start with circles and squares and triangles, so we look for both the curve and the line. Discounting one is correct and one is incorrect is the biggest problem that we have. Both are correct. The only thing that is actual truth is that in our society, we do value sacred shapes such as platonic solids. We do value the tetrahedron, the icosahedron, the cube, the dodecahedron, and the octahedron. We value those as the 5 platonic solids. So when we find them in things, we align with those. We align with those because they were created with 3, 6, and 9, and 3, 6, and 9 is going to take you right back to the golden ratio. Add a 0.5 to the golden ratio, and you have all of creation. Okay, so I'm just saying that this is great information. I absolutely love it, but let's add more to it and not just stop at that place.
Creation story that says time began when the supernatural beings awoke and broke through the surface of the earth. So imagine the surface of the earth being something like this, that metal plate being the surface of the earth, and the supernatural beings broke through the surface of the earth, and they created the surface of the earth with 3 sacred songs. Eric Larson is the guy that created the cymoscope, and this is when you can suddenly see how the human voice has potential to create infinitely. That with our voice, we have the potential to create everything and anything we can imagine. That we are indeed creators. And remember, every thought you have also has a frequency and a vibration, has a resonance, just like your voice. And some of these pictures of this cymoscope images tell us that it was these sounds, the images of the sound, that actually inspired religious symbols. That beautiful cross in a circle at the center of some of these cymatic photographs give us a very clear indication that the creators of the religious symbols knew exactly what they were talking about, that the source of creation is sound itself. Ancient civilizations understood sound and frequency, and they used it for everything. They used it as a tool, and they also used it to control and manipulate humanity. This is nothing new. We know by now that the pineal gland is pretty much what represents the all-seeing eye of Horus. It's a receiver, it's a transmitter, it's a powerful tool that we should be using, but we're not, because it was manipulated with and probably compromised. And it seems that these...
Okay, again, so we're going to go ahead and stop here real quick, because we're already getting into like a more negative side. You know, they want to control you, they want to manipulate you. Your pineal gland is worthless now because it's, you know, fluoride, you know, riddled and everything. And the thing is that that's not true. And that's a very disempowering thought to have. Okay? It is not about controlling you. It is actually, when you get to the bigger understanding of it, it is about, when you are unaware, it's about keeping you alive as long as you can. Because in a state of unawareness, you make a lot of mistakes. And if you don't know that yet, go back and look at your life. Look at where you are now and look at your life before. And look at the different moments that you had where you wouldn't be alive anymore if one thing didn't go the way that it did. A car accident, getting in a vehicle with someone who's drunk, all of these things that we do in unawareness. So there is a system that is set up so that those in unawareness don't off themselves, you know, within days, within weeks, within months. And yes, it is a harsher system to get through, but it is a system that is necessary for the unaware. When you become aware is when you start to see this system. It's when you start to understand that things were put in place. And if you don't understand why they were put in place, you just reject them. Okay, your pineal gland is completely fine. And it works because your pineal gland is just your third eye. It is the ability to see more than what the average person sees. It is not a receiver. Your hypothalamus, your brain itself, is a receiver. And it's a receiver of your environment. That is all. When you want to lock or unlock secrets, questions, paths, all these things that you go into meditation for, it is done through your brain, not as a receiver, but as the holder of all information. If you really want to get biblical down to it, your right brain is your Ark of the Covenant. It has every option. It is quantum. That's why when you go into meditation, I always teach people, don't go into meditation with the direction of your thought. Go in with your pure imagination. Because in that pure imagination is where you're going to create the answer that you had inside of you all along. So when you listen to these things, again, you know, there's truth in all, but not all is truth. Yes, there is a system that is set up. And yes, it is to keep you more contained and docile. Because if you were not more contained and docile, you would basically have chaos and numbers that we as a society wouldn't be able to grow from. People wouldn't be able to even rise from places if it was that bad. And make no mistake, the unawareness is very unbalanced. And we are coming into a time of more technology and more light, more seen things that have been going on. And so there is a massive change that is happening right now before your eyes. But you have to decide for yourself, are you responding from a state of love, or are you responding from a state of fear? Are you afraid of these systems, or are you understanding these systems weren't built for you? You are no longer asleep. You are no longer unaware. And so therefore, they were not built for you. When you look back and you see a toddler that is inside of a pen, do you get upset? No, because it's there to keep them safe, even if they don't understand it. But as you grow up, you start to see these things and you start to appreciate these things. Okay, let's continue with the video.
These ancient beings, these either bird-headed beings or winged beings, used these cone-shaped tools and other techniques to manipulate our pineal gland and manipulate our DNA. They controlled us, the tree of life or the DNA, and they probably used sound and frequency to do that with. But what's important is to look at, so we got a pine cone, a cone-shaped tool in his hand, and that weird wristwatch that has got these 12 cone shapes pointing at the center, and then also this here. Seems like everything is encoded here when they draw these or carve these things. It's not just accidental. Everything has got a reason why it's there. So you'll realize why that is so important, because this wristwatch with those 12 cones pointing at the middle shows us that they weren't only controlling our thoughts and our minds with sound and frequency and magnetics in ancient times, but we've been doing it for ages now. There's your all-seeing eye of Horus. There's your half of that weird wristwatch with the 6 cones facing the middle, all controlling us with sound and frequency. And this brings us to using sound as a tool in technology. Sound creates light. The Ankh was used as a healing tool. We know that from images like this, and there's a lot more to be said about this. The medicine wheel is a cross in a circle that represents sound, that primordial source of sound, that shows that the Native American healers knew that sound could cure and could heal. This is a Sumerian seal that represents sound, and also this is where the swastika has its origin. in sound and resonance. Royal Raymond Rife, that cured, the man that found the cure for all disease with sound and resonance, were converted to electric impulses. And in a library in Sedona is his handwritten manuscript that you can read all his handwritten frequencies that he wrote down for cures for all the disease.
Okay, so I love that he actually mentioned this, because there's another side to this as well. Okay, there were a lot of people who were actually were able to create things that healed cancer very, very quickly. And it's not that it wasn't released to the public because they didn't want people to be cured of cancer. It's because of the fact that if we didn't stop the momentum of why cancer was happening in the first place, we couldn't implement something that was going to cure people on a rapid rate. If you want to smoke for most of your life and end up with lung cancer, you can't have an instant fix. It costs too much money at the time that they were dealing with it, and on top of that, there is no lesson to learn from that. Then you have more people that drink, more people that smoke. You have more of these situations that are causing cancer because cancer does not come out of nowhere. Cancer is a lifetime experience of choices. And so the understanding at, again, a very different vibration, a very high understanding of how to protect all, not just the one, but the all, is the clarity of the fact that you can't release something to a society that they are not ready to handle. And if we are not going to stop the behaviors that were causing the cancer, then why is it that they would give something that would instantly cure it? Okay, there's a lot of information that goes into these kind of videos and these kind of conversations that needs to go a step further than where we are actually at. Now, again, I will follow with saying that we have not done a great job of drawing this line. I think we can do it much better than the way that it's been done. There are people who do die of cancer who didn't make certain choices. And there are people who are dying of different diseases who aren't making these active choices. Sometimes things happen, like living in cities where there's more smog, so on and so forth. But either way, every single decision, if you follow it back, just like a spider web, every single decision is going to go all the way to a starting point. And that starting point is not evil. It's not bad. These people wanted to change society, and I completely understand that. But if society did not want to change, we have to accept that. The fact that we can look at it now and say, wow, we could have had something like that, instead of being upset that we didn't have it, bring it into today. There are more aware people who are trying to get healthier, who are trying to get more aligned, who are working with chakras than ever before, or at least ever before in the last 50 years. Okay, so spending the time being angry at them for not telling us this or not sharing this information is a waste of time, because if you want to actually get to change, understand that there's always a good side to every single side that we consider bad. All right, so let's continue with this.
Tchaikovsky, the multiple wave oscillator that has got an incredible record of curing all kinds of diseases, including cancers. And more recently, Anthony Holland, who in a TED talk in 2011 shows how he cures cancer with sound frequencies. Unfortunately, Anthony Holland thought he'd become famous, and since then we've not heard anything of him. He's sort of disappeared.
We showed these videos to our friends in the biology department. They said they hadn't seen anything quite like it. It seems to be a new phenomenon. These organisms are being shattered by our electronic signals.
Peter Davey boiled water with sound since 1940. Sound creates what's known as a star in a jar, magnetrons. It's called a resonant cavity magnetron that is created through resonance, sound resonance. It creates huge amounts of energy that's used in laser beams, used in microwaves, laser beams, etc. Sound acts as a cloak of invisibility. Sound can make things disappear. This 3D sort of plastic pyramid that they created, when they expose it to certain sound frequencies, anything they put underneath it disappears, becomes invisible. And then makes you wonder if that was the original idea for the structures of some monasteries. What do monks do in monasteries? They sit and chant. Sound creates hurricanes. Two guys in 2003 that lodged a patent to create hurricanes out of sound. Believe it or not, Luc Montagnier, 2011, spontaneously generated DNA in water with sound frequencies. If you go on YouTube, you can watch one of these latest documentaries where he creates a virus with a sound frequency from Paris to Rome by sending a sound frequency of a virus across a telephone line, and they reconstitute the virus that he has in the lab in Paris. They reconstitute the same virus in the lab in Rome. This is just spectacular stuff. Now you can see how we can manifest things. We become creators and can manifest anything with sound. And this is why we now know that sound is the ultimate source of free energy. And Nikola Tesla knew this. He knew that the earth rings like a bell, and he used the sound of the earth because it constantly rings. It never stops. He used it as a source of energy to create his free.
Okay, so we're definitely going to stop there. So part of this is true. Again, truth and all, not all is truth. So Nikola Tesla did absolutely believe in free energy, but he did believe in sound. But what you'll actually learn when you really get into astrology is that all the planets and all the stars emit sound. And so what Nikola Tesla was able to do is he was able to tap into Venus. He was able to tap into the energy of Venus. And when you really get into the numbers of Tesla, for instance, his machine was giving off a 0.8484. And when you add that up, you get 168. And 168 was the size of his tower versus the Venus tower, which was 192. There's a lot of information that directly links to understanding that he was tapping into the energy of Venus. That each of the planets give off a different energy, and when we can tap into it, then we end up evolving in technology. The X-ray came from a supernova star that we saw, where you actually saw the X-ray for the first time, or a frequency that was giving off that was different than all the others, and then ended up creating the X-ray, being able to see through things. When they're talking about the building, that can go basically transparent, or anything that's underneath it can be transparent. Understand, this is not new information. This has been going on for a very long time. But the unaware people, the people who are not interested in finding out this information, of seeking any type of step beyond their pen kind of thing, there was no reason to teach you this. There was no reason to guide you on this information. Because make no mistake, no matter how you view it, to run any system that is global costs money. And I don't mean that in terms of money, what you have in your hands, because the global currency isn't money. The global currency is energy. It's always been energy, whether you're talking about sunlight at the very beginning, or the sunlight that's trapped inside of oil, which is what we ended up having all of our cars and vehicles and companies and factories running through, is using oil. Because we understand that there is sunlight in it. We understand that sunlight was trapped in trees. So when we would burn the trees, we were releasing the sunlight, and boom, we would actually have light. So everything is about energy, and Tesla understood that. And so he was able to tap into an unlimited source of energy that never came from Earth. And because of that, I believe that that's the reason that his information was on lockdown. Is because if he could do it, someone else could do it. And if someone else could do it, then there was no way to keep the matrix running at that point. There was no way to keep the unaware in a state of awareness. And notice, even if you're on 9 Vibes, I asked a question a few months ago. I said that if you could have $13.7 billion, what would you do? And the average person said along the lines of paying off their bills, helping other people, creating something that would change the world, all of these great and fantastic answers with zero plans, with zero awareness onto how to do it. And yet you spend all your day waiting for a large amount of money to show up so that you can change your life, with no plan, no way to actually follow through with it. So the unaware, when they have too much information, when they realize that they are pure electricity, when they realize that they are much more powerful than what they are, end up becoming unstable. And when you really get into science, you'll understand that. You'll understand that as an electron ends up going and going and going and then jumps off of the atom, it becomes free electricity, a very unstable situation, and the atom becomes completely unstable. Okay? It is not about control. It's about direction of flow. And it's the exact same thing that you would do whether or not you were dealing with a kid. You would not give them 5 different weapons before they understood what they were actually working with. And the same thing goes with this. If you are listening to this right now and you are going, wow, you know what? I am aware. I am one of these people. Great. Then stop wasting your time with the old system. It does not apply to you. You want to change your life. You want to get a new job. You want to find that partner. Now you can actually start doing it, because now you have pressed play on the solo game of your life. You're not on someone else's team. you now are the person who directs where it goes, which means if you spend a lot of time making decisions that will lead towards or closer to death, you're going to experience it. If you make decisions based off of love, compassion, and kindness, you are going to live a long time. You are going to get clarity and understanding you've never received before. All right, so let's go back to it.
The energy device. And this is where we realize that sound and magneticism is inextricably connected. It's sound that creates magnetic fields, and moving magnetic fields create electricity. It's in that order that creation seems to happen. So we don't live in an electromagnetic universe, we live in a magneto-electric universe. If you want to find out the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That's exactly what I've been sharing with you here. Now that you know how powerful your thoughts are, how powerful every word you write, every message you leave for somebody on your cell phone, how every email you send, how powerful all your communication and all your thoughts are, you realize how quickly we can co-create a new reality for ourselves. Because all of this positive stuff, the positive thinking, the positive talking, the positive co-creation of a new reality for humanity that is filled with prosperity and abundance is right here. We are creating it as we speak it and as we think it. No one...
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. You are the creator of your reality. Tesla's quote on, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency, goes a lot deeper than just what you're learning here. Because both frequency and vibration are illusions. It's what you create. It's what you experience. They are complete illusions. They are the 3 and the 6 that make up the 9. And that's why Tesla also taught you that if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have a key to the universe. He didn't say keys as in plural. He said key because it's the unity of them that gives you that 9. It's the unity of them that gives you that pure energy. It's the starting with the 9 energy and breaking it up into 2 parts, the 3 and the 6, the duality, the back and forth, the yin and yang. And they are never equal. And the reason they are never equal is because light is always going to be a little bit more than darkness. Okay? If you were to take a candle into a cave, you can change 80% of the darkness into light. You can transform it. But you cannot take the exact same experience and the exact same size of darkness and change the light in any way. Okay, there's always going to be one that is a little bit more, and that is going to be light. And so they are going around in this dance and this perpetual cycle over and over until they come together and realize that they were always 9, which is what the reflection is all about. Once 3 and 6 come together, it is a reflection of 9. Once 9 sees itself, it understands itself, it embraces itself, and it starts as 1 again. So the understanding of this this message is absolutely great. I love it, and I like the way that he's ending on this, because you are the creator of your reality. Reality is no longer defined by physicality. Okay, that is the old way. We are now into numbers and patterns. We are now into the golden ratio and the golden angle. We are now into the Fibonacci sequence and Benford's law. We are now into the understanding of the flow so that you can live in the flow. All right, we're not in the dark anymore. All right, this video was awesome. I enjoyed it. I hope you liked the little bit of upgrades that I had. Get your 9 vibes aligned.